afternoon. At the tone, Pacific Daylight Time will be 5, 4, and 30 seconds.
What? Oh my God, we're having an earthquake. Wait a minute. Hold on. Can you feel that? Yes, I sure can. Okay, this is interesting. There go the lights. Oh.
This is Kathleen Aston for the Santa Cruz Public Libraries at the Santa Cruz Community Television Station. And I'm here with Kathy Phillips to do her oral history recording for the Loma Prieta 30th Anniversary Oral History Project Epicenter. Thank you so much for coming today,
Sure.
Kathy. And with our first question, I will ask, how long have you lived here in Santa Cruz?
Since the fall of 1978.
And could you describe what brought you to this community?
A good place to raise kids, because we were living in Venice and that didn't seem like a good place to raise kids. It was a lot of fun, but no.
Mm-hmm. And how old were your kids when they came here?
They weren't born yet.
Great question, great answer. And could you describe what you were doing during the earthquake?
Yes, I was in our business in Boulder Creek, Pinnacle Grouse. It was in the back half of the original fire department, so it's this big wood frame building. You're probably familiar with it. And I was there by myself. My partner was out of town on business, and things started shaking. I went and stood in an internal doorway, and I looked up and realized generations of people had left things in this building, and there was this large piece of farm equipment, like a scythe cutting thing. And before I stood there and thought, if there's a big earthquake, this thing's gonna fall on me. So I stood there for a minute, then I started running for the front door and realized I was stepping on broken glass with every step. So I turned around, went toward the back door, which was just a big barn door, shoved it open, ran outside. And just about then, one of our customers came up to me. He was a guy in his 40s or 50s, pretty clean cut, always rode a motorcycle. And I want to tell this part because I think it's funny.
Please.
Always rode a motorcycle, and the shaking stopped, and I said, oh, I need to go back in and get my backpack for my driver's license, go pick up my son at daycare. He said, oh, okay, I'll help you, I'll go in first. He went in, I went in after him. Right then there was a big aftershock, and he turned around and practically ran me over getting back out of the door. So it was really nice of him to try. At that point I decided no driving, and just walked up to the sitters about 3 blocks away. Things had kind of calmed down by then. Everybody there was fine. She had my son, who was 3, her twin boys, who were 4, and her 2 teenage daughters, and a small car. And she said, well, I'll give you a ride home. So we all packed into the car. Her daughters were in the back praying loudly the entire way to our house. And should I go on from there?
Please.
Sure. I got home. Our property had a small cabin that my mother lived in a trailer. The trailer was pretty much off the cinder blocks. My daughter, who was 10, was like so hyped up at this point. She was just jumping up and down on her mattress that was on the floor. And so we calmed everybody down, relocated to the little cabin, and that's where we spent the night.
And could you describe a little bit more your business, just so?
Sure. I had a gift shop for here and there in the county for almost 25 years. We sold jewelry, toys, kaleidoscopes, mostly handcrafted things. Okay. And yeah, subsequently, we spent like a week cleaning up. Everybody in Boulder Creek was great. They came by, offered to help. And yeah, about 2 weeks later, in the middle of the night, there was a big aftershock. And I jumped out of bed, ran over to my son's bed, and stubbed my toe and fractured my toe. That's the only accident I had from the quake. And he was sound asleep.
Wow. So sort of picking up off of that, was there anything in particular, like emotional, physical, or spiritual, that you really felt from the earthquake, like of your experiences?
Beyond fear, the earthquake itself, no, just fear. After that, as I said, gratitude to the people around me for being so helpful, and everybody picking up and working together, and our vendors, we had a lot of broken stuff. Everybody just said, we'll ship you more stuff, pay us when you can. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and to skip ahead a little bit to one of our other questions, can you talk more about how the earthquake impacted the Santa Cruz community and like your space in the Santa Cruz community?
Beyond everybody working together and cleaning things up, and obviously some people mourning their losses. Not really. It was a transitory event.
Yeah. And so did you understand the significance of the earthquake while it was happening, more than just an earthquake, like what other impacts it might have?
I think it does tend to make us all realize how fragile and changing our environment is, and how we need to take care of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, if there's anything else you wanted to say about how the earthquake like impacted your personal life.
Well, unfortunately, my partner, who was up in the East Bay at the time, couldn't get a hold of us right away and couldn't get back, and he started smoking again. So, yeah, that's impacted us.
And that can be very impactful.
Yeah, he was pretty stressed.
Was he? Was that a work thing, or?
Yeah, we had property there, and he was taking care of our property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you take any particular precautions against natural disasters now, and what are those, if you do?
I've pretty much always been the kind of person that looks ahead and prepares for everything, and almost expects bad things to happen, unfortunately. So I tend to be prepared. If you look in my car, there's first aid, there's water, there's blankets in there. I'm ready.
Great, and that was even before the earthquake, that was also true?
Yeah.
Wow. And your kids, did it affect them in any particular disaster preparedness way, or do they have strong memories of the experience?
I doubt. My son remembers being a bookshelf, some books falling on his head. That's what he remembers. My daughter, I'm not sure what she remembers. I'm sure she was old enough to remember a lot about it. I think probably she remembers us huddling in the cabin at night, kind of like pioneer woman style.
Yeah. And the cabin was not impacted by the earthquake? It didn't change?
No. And the old fire department building was an old wood frame building, and it wasn't really impacted either.
Is there anything you'd like to say about what it's like to be reflecting on the earthquake after it's been 30 years?
It is pretty emotional, yeah. Think about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is when you're talking about that, is that sort of like those same emotions of like the fear of what was happening, or is it more an emotional response to the aftermath?
If I go back, I can kind of touch the fear, yeah. Probably be feeling it again at some point.
Yeah. Is there anything, so that's the end of our prepared questions, and the final one we have is just if there's anything that you would like to add that we didn't cover, or if there are any of these stories, like the one that you told that was funny, that you'd like to expand on, like getting that sense of like the richness and detail is really important.
People a few months after, they really wanted things.
Yeah.
It was actually good for business. They were getting their insurance payments in, and there was just this yearning to replace their stuff. You know, not exactly the same stuff, but stuff, and of course to buy presents because it was holiday. But yeah, I do think about our relationship with things.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Very. Do you feel like that in any, because you were then also here probably for the flooding that happened in the early 80s?
I was. Okay, that's a whole other story, isn't it?
It is, but do you feel like, and I don't want to go too off the mark here, but do you feel like people's responses were similar to the earthquake as in those floods?
Well, I think there's more fear in an earthquake because not so many people got directly flooded. We just got a little water in the basement. And with all of it, of course, there's dealing with FEMA, which it's not always easy.
And did you have experience dealing directly with FEMA for either of those two instances?
It did for the flooding, and they were kind of dismissive of our losses. Our basement studio got flooded and things got damaged. They were just kind of dismissive of it, and we didn't pursue it beyond that.
And one thing that it's interesting to hear about is how people at the time were getting their information about the earthquake. Could you talk a little bit about how you were learning about, the damage there or elsewhere, or how people were responding?
That was almost 30 years ago. I don't remember.
That's totally
other than probably, portable radio. Yeah.
Okay. And so is there anything else?
No, I'm good. Thanks for doing this.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for coming and participating.
Sure.
We really appreciate it.